And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Sports Frenzy podcast. Phil Penarski here once again with our News 8 sports correspondents, Dean Holzwarth and Andy McDonald. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for stopping by. Of course, we're going to talk about the Lions and how that playoff race is kind of shaking up after Sunday's loss to the Los Angeles Rams. We'll also be mentioning the Pistons, who are still atop the Eastern Conference and getting ready for maybe an extended break for the holidays. We got to talk about the Red Wings, who have consistently gotten back into those winning ways, but we do want to begin with something a little bit more serious, and that being the Sherrone Moore situation happening over in Ann Arbor. Last week, the news broke that he had not only been fired from the university without cause, but then he had also been arrested. That happened right after we finished recording last week's episode. So again, we've kind of had a week to really look at all of the details that have been kind of put out in front of us. And guys, we talked a little bit about it before we started recording. It was just kind of a complete surprise. First seeing that he had been fired, then seeing the arrest and all the fallout that kind of came from that. It just was not really, it's not just a sports story, but again, it's just equally as surprising as it is important to really cover and give some time to really, talking about it.
Yeah, like when there's different events that happen in your life that you always say, like, hey, where were you when you heard this news? Right. I feel like this is kind of one of them, right? Like I received a text from one of my friends saying, hey, Sherrone Moore got fired. I'm like, what? And then a couple hours later, hey, he got arrested. What? He broke into his girlfriend's apartment. What?
Right.
Like it was just all this stuff that started unfolding. It was just crazy. But it's super unfortunate, obviously, for the whole Michigan, I feel like, brand, number one, to kind of have an incident like this happen and just have Sherrone just kind of lose his mind after everything that happened. But yeah, I mean, like I said, super unfortunate. I just don't even know where to go with this. It's a situation where, you make a mistake and you have to pay the consequences, right? And apparently Michigan, from what I heard, Michigan kind of knew about this affair for a while. Some people did in the know, and it's very sad that this kind of happened, and the timing of it. I mean, obviously, couldn't be worse going into the bowl game. But I don't even know what to say. It was just a really crazy sports story.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things right now that it's like, after all the time that, Michigan fans spent talking about Mel Tucker, all of a sudden something comes out like this and it's like, holy smokes. So it's a lot worse for them, I would say, in this scenario. Not that either one was in the right, but yeah, I mean, if you're Michigan right now, you're gonna have to deal with plenty of the jokes, because for the last 10 years, it kind of seems like the people they've been hiring just haven't been doing the job. I think there's that crazy stat out there of like 11 total people have been involved in something. I think it was like 7 of them have been like criminally involved with something, and 4 of them were just like under investigation for stuff, or fired because of cause or whatever it is. I mean, really, that's what kind of like sent me in the other direction, because when I originally saw the headline, I was like, I just kind of looked at it on my phone and was like, wow, Michigan like had, they decided to fire Sherrone Moore. It's pretty crazy they made that decision. But when you saw with cause, that was where I was like, well, what's the reasoning for that? And obviously a lot of crazy stuff came out. I think that is the one thing that Michigan decided to do right, was get rid of him right away and not wait longer, like some people have somehow said is a problem out there on national shows. But it's just a crazy situation that he was, even involved in any of this. I think going on the people that did know about it, for me, it's more or less like, I think people probably knew that there was like maybe an investigation going on back in the summer. Like some of these dated tweets, I think it's a bunch of BS to say that you like knew like that exactly what was happening. I think people knew that they were getting investigated for this. I don't think Michigan knew exactly what happened. I'm sure that they both probably denied it, and then it moved on for a while until it got to the point where they found out all the other stuff that came out with him and what is it, Paige Shiver? I don't know how to pronounce it for sure, but between those two. So yeah, obviously a lot of crazy stuff came out in a matter of 12 hours, and I guess like that's just crazy to think about how you can have, maybe it wasn't his dream job, but it was definitely one of the best jobs you could ever have, and you just completely destroyed your life. Obviously, it goes back to what he did with her before, but just it would have just been like, he's a dirtbag. Maybe he gets hired somewhere else. Now it's you broke into her house and you're probably never going to get hired anywhere else. So crazy situation, and crazy that he could ruin it all in that amount of time.
Yeah, if he would have handled it differently, he probably could have had a hope.
I still would have. If you're anybody involved with Michigan, it was the right thing to do to fire him immediately. Like before any of that happened, that was the right cause. I think the one problem with it is that War Emanuel probably should have had somebody in the room, because he did know about some of his mental issues, allegedly, is what I've heard. He probably should have had somebody in the room to kind of control it a little bit. Because at the end of the day, when you start hearing some of the details come out in the court case, it's just sad. Like, it is so sad that happened and went down that way and everything goes that way, because it sucks when somebody's struggling like that. Not making any defense for him, but it just sucks that it had to go to that kind of an extent, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, you really hit the nail on the head of kind of giving credit to Michigan for, kind of stepping in and deciding, okay, I know we've got a game coming up. I know that it's signing day and, recruits are maybe coming in and looking, and, maybe Sherrone was a huge part of why they wanted to come to Michigan. And they were like, you know what, we just have to cut the cord. We gotta make a stand at some point. But, this has kind of become, from an outside perspective, it looks like Michigan, they don't really have control of that football organization right now, or that part of the athletic department, because of course we know about the Connor Stallions situation, the national championship situation, and now we're kind of looking at this a third thing. And it just kind of the list of things that are kind of plaguing off the field the Wolverines. I mean, it just kind of keeps growing and growing. And again, for a team and an institution, a university that has so much pride in its football team, again, it's just kind of sad. That is the word I think I would go with. It's just sad how this is all kind of going about.
Yeah, I think it's pride in being a Michigan man is like the thing that everybody's kind of been bringing up right now. Like that's what they define themselves as being like some of the best people in the world and great leaders of these players and stuff like that. Like right now, that just hasn't been the case. I think it's more or less. The cheating scandal is one thing, okay? Like you can go into that, whatever. That has nothing to do with like this kind of stuff, in my opinion. This is like completely different. It's more or less the people on Harbaugh's staff, all the people that have branched off of his staff that have gotten fired for the reasons that they've gotten fired for. That's the problem to me. Like you can't have those kind of people coming to your university and being involved in their football program. And yeah, again, like Michigan kind of waiting until after the signing day, that feels a little dirty too. It's like at this point, the problem is they don't have somebody to hire Ward Manuel right now because they don't have an official president. They don't want an interim probably to make their decision on their next football coach. And Ward Manuel has hired somebody. He did hire Dusty May, which has been great for the basketball program, right? But on the football side of things, he hasn't made a great hire in a while. So it's like, if you're Michigan, the one thing that should be happening right now is you probably should be hiring somebody that you trust to get that Michigan man name. I don't think there's any problem with that standard. Michigan needs to hire somebody that can actually live up to that standard again. I think that should be their number one thing they do right now. And it's hard to trust Ward Manuel to be the guy to do that.
Yeah, they kind of have to rebuild their reputation, right, through that next coaching hire. Yeah. No matter who it is. I really would have loved the Arizona State's coach, Dillingham, right? Yeah. Kalen DeBoer, I would have loved to have at Michigan. But now, there's not many guys left out there. You're not going to take Brian Kelly. I know people have said Tony Anise. That's just not happening.
No.
But yeah, now you're trying to left with like who do we get?
I mean, it's still called Dillingham DeBoer. I think you still reach out and try.
But I think both of them were pretty adamant about, hey, we're not coming.
Yeah, but if you're Michigan, the one thing Michigan has that they still have is money. You got a blank check. I mean, you offer him until he says no to whatever your top offer is that you can't. And that for me, that's DeBoer, not Dillingham. But either way, I think that's something they should do.
Yeah, and for me, I never thought Sherrone Moore was a good coach, right? Like he got put into a really good position after the national championship. Right. Michigan, for some reason, didn't want to do this national search to try to find a guy. They wanted to go in house with Sherrone, and I kind of thought at first he got fired. I saw with costing, but when my buddy said, I was like, okay, they want to go into a different direction.
That was my thought
because they didn't like the style that Sherrone with the whole running, and he didn't develop Bryce Underwood. So like that to me was part of it at first, but then obviously everything else came out. So I think a change direction, regardless, is going to be good for this program. Right. And now like I said, they have to rebuild their reputation.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that. That's the way that it has to be, and it sucks that it went down this way. I do agree. I don't think that. Michigan probably wanted to get rid of him anyway. I'm not saying that this is at all the reason why they wanted to do it. It's just, I think the reason that they did retain him, to kind of answer that, Dean, in my eyes, is that they didn't want to lose some of the players they had coming back from that team, because they probably wouldn't have been very competitive, off the gates. I think they kind of made the decision like, let's just stick with this guy, even though we're gonna have to deal with suspensions, and he's a branch off the Harbaugh tree. At the end of the day, that wasn't the right decision. Probably couldn't have predicted it going this bad, but they probably should have went somewhere else, and hopefully they'd do the right thing and hire somebody that's actually going to get that program going in the right direction. Because just as much as we talked about Michigan State, being hard to find somebody to take that job to turn it around, that's kind of where Michigan has obviously a bigger name. They've been better for a longer time. still going to be harder to get some of those people to answer those phone calls compared to what you had before.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and obviously the story much bigger than sports. It goes beyond the football field, but let's kind of focus on this team because one, they've got a bowl game coming up right now, but again, you also have to kind of find that next guy to, start getting this team ready for the upcoming season. And we saw what kind of happened with Penn State. We kind of share that same sentiment that they felt like that they were dragging their feet a bit, and then they ended up getting Matt Campbell, which I think is a pretty good hire for them. But again, they were running out of options, and now you bring in Michigan, and they're coming in well after Penn State probably even started looking for a coach. I mean, this is something that they really kind of have to get going on. Dean, you mentioned Kalen DeBoer and Kenny Dillingham. Guys, is there anybody else, though, that you think would be a perfect fit, or a guy that, a blank check is the first thing that Michigan should be doing when they contact this person?
Oh, I think Jesse Minter. Obviously he's the defensive coach now at help me out.
Chargers?
With the Chargers right now, but he's a Michigan guy, right? He was obviously defensive coordinator for
Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh. It's funny. I think John Harbaugh should come back to the college. I bring another Harbaugh. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. The Ravens. He's been there a long time. They obviously can't get over the hump as far as trying to compete for a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl. But bring him back. But at this point, I just don't know who they're gonna find.
It's not often that I completely disagree with you, but I completely disagree with you on that. I don't think there should be any part of that coaching tree coming back to Michigan right now. I'd want to get as far away from that as possible. All you're getting called right now is a cheater. I would want if you care about all what other people think about you, and maybe they don't, I don't know. But if you care at all about that, and I think that they always wanted to act like they were held to the highest standard and everything else, just go get somebody that does things the right way and can maybe make this team a winner again at the same time. Again, I kind of gave it away with me. I think DeBoer is the guy that I would want, and if it was even possible, at all. So this is a wish list, and that's what we're going with. That's what I would probably say. I think you throw as much as it, because Alabama, it's ridiculous the standard there with Nick Saban. It's that high because of him being there for that long. You can't expect somebody to come in there and be that good, but those people, they really do think that way. Right. So if Michigan could get him, I think it would just be an absolute slam dunk. And I think the best thing you could hope for as a Michigan fan, if you do want that, is that they lose in their first round of the playoff game, because that'll get even more push to get him out the door.
Right. And
for whatever reason.
Yeah, his buyout's not that bad either for the next 2 years. It's $3 and $4 million or something.
Exactly.
Like that.
And he wins. I mean, he wins, and he's a good coach, and I think he'd be a great person to switch to for sure.
Agreed. So no Connor Stallions.
Yeah. No, probably not. No,
probably not.
He coached in high school last year.
Yeah, that went well for him.
No Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Coming back to Michigan.
Listen, I've said it 100 times. I don't think the cheating stuff is why Michigan won those games. I still think you got to get away from it. Yeah. Everything needs that needs to go away and be in the past right now.
Right. Well, as somebody who covered sports in Alabama for a few years, yes, the fans down there in Tuscaloosa do care a lot about how good Alabama is, 9-3 and making the college football playoff. I mean, I've seen so many people calling for him to get fired just from that. Crazy. So again, I mean, he might have a little bit of a longer leash here in Ann Arbor.
That's the thing. Michigan was 9-3, and everybody was mad about that. But obviously, on the field, I still think you would say Alabama probably looks better than Michigan did in the field this year. So it's definitely just Alabama's competitive. I would want that guy as my coach.
Right, absolutely. All right. Well, real quick before we move on to the next segment, obviously Michigan still has a game to play, taking on Texas. I mean, do you guys think that this? How are they going to kind of come out of that game? I guess. Do you think Michigan comes out with a win in that one, or again, you think Texas maybe just with everything kind of going on, they come out with a win?
I mean, obviously everything behind or in front of us that we can see, what Michigan posts from their practices and stuff, kind of moving on to the next game and everything. It seems like Biff is doing a good job of getting them ready for this game, and I think they'll come out and play with a lot of pride. I mean, I don't know what Bryce Underwood's future is going to be at Michigan. He's practicing. I'm not sure if maybe I missed it if he was going to play or not play in this game, but I think he's planning to play. So yeah, I would expect this kind of game, Michigan to be ready for it and kind of want to, shut the world up by getting a win. That's the one thing you can do.
Yeah, I think all the preparation for this game is kind of a good distraction.
Yeah,
these
for
players
sure.
And stuff. Because I know they were hurt. Just hearing some of the things, they were really hurt by everything that happened. So, like I said, a good distraction for them, and hopefully they go have a little chip on their shoulder and they go out and they just play well.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's move on now to the next topic, that being the Detroit Lions, who fell to the Los Angeles Rams this past Sunday, 41-34. We kind of touched on that it was going to be a very high-scoring game, and it kind of delivered. It was a very good game to watch. Obviously, did not end the way that Lions fans would have liked. We did also mention, kind of going into that game, that this would be a good, whether the Lions came out with a win or not, this would be a good benchmark to see where they kind of stacked up against the other elite teams in the NFC. So obviously, they came out with a loss. We're not going to spend too much time talking talking about what went wrong with them. But I guess kind of coming out of that win, can you take any moral victories knowing that they did keep it kind of close against a Rams team that has the likely MVP in Matthew Stafford and is competing for the number 1 overall seed in the NFC?
I mean, I don't think you can take a moral victory from this, right? Like you competed against the best team in the NFC, right? And you had a bad third quarter where you went, 3 straight drives, 3 and outs, and that kind of cost you, and your defense couldn't get a stop. So a lot of times you ask us what our gauge is right now with the Lions, and I'm very worried, right? Like they can't prove that they can win back-to-back games, and now we want them to win 3 games in a row to make the playoffs.
Right.
So like since week 4 and 5 is the last time they've won back-to-back games. So I don't know. It's a little alarming to me right now. They are a little banged up in the secondary. The run defense was horrible against the Rams. So yeah, I'm just a little worried right now about their chances now. They're 41% chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's definitely a tough situation. This is kind of the scenario I saw when I thought there might be a chance they might not make the playoffs. This is what it was. They just can't find consistency with this team. They still have a lot of talent, and they can win some games. But again, this was a game they were up in, and last year when they get that kind of lead like they had in the first half of this game, it feels like they wouldn't have lost it last year. This team just isn't as good as it was a year ago. But I think the one thing that you will find out no matter what from these last few games here for them playing for their playoff lives is like, what are these players really made of, the leaders in this team? Like the ones that are the most like Hutch, Jared Goff, Carson Anderson does a radio show on 97 won the ticket in Detroit. They had him on yesterday, and he kind of, they were talking about how they took calls from some of the fans being upset, and Jared kind of let him have it a little bit, like, oh, that's great that they're mad at us, blah, blah, blah. And you can interpret that however you want. If you want to go find it out there, it was kind of everywhere today. But he's definitely, he's upset right now about it. I think that a lot of these players that were good in this team feel like they should be better than where they're at right now, regardless of how they got there. And I think with 3 beatable opponents to end the season, I mean, obviously the Bears are what they are. I still am not a huge believer in the Bears yet. I just the Eagles are what they are. That's a good win, but still not a huge believer in it. If they can get to that game and find a way to win that game, whether they end up making it or not, I think that would show a lot about this team, the leadership of this team, to know they're still good going forward in the future if their management makes the right decisions. So there's still things to watch for these last few games, but they got to go out there and prove that for all these fans that are upset to be wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, Detroit obviously kind of needs to win these last 3 games and also get some help, with the Packers and Bears maybe stumbling a little bit as well. They play the Steelers, then the Vikings, and then the Bears. So again, Andy, you kind of said, 3 beatable opponents. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Dean, you said that you were a little worried about them winning 3 games in a row because they can't even win 2 games in a row. Do we see them at least competing and having a chance, maybe going into that final week against Chicago with a chance to make the playoffs? Or do we think that maybe, it might be just time to admit the fact that they're not making the playoffs again?
Yeah, I think being that this game's at home against Pittsburgh, I think that they do win. And even if it ends up kind of being a shootout, if they can beat Dallas in that kind of a game at home, I think they can definitely beat Pittsburgh with their offense right now. So I'll take them to win that and at least keep it alive for another week. I do think the Bears are going to win this weekend. So it's really going to come down to that San Francisco game for the Bears, because we don't want the Packers to lose. Like that's just kind of not going to be the answer for the Lions right now to make it. They're not going to lose that many games in a row, whether they're banged up or not. So I think you want to see the Bears lose this weekend and then the Lions win. All of a sudden, that puts a lot more pressure on Chicago, it feels like, maybe for a second, than it does on Detroit, because they're the team that's kind of on the outside looking in. So I feel like that would be the best case scenario, and I think that they do start this weekend with a win. But I don't know. I don't know if they can win that many games in a row right now. It's kind of hard to say. Right. They did do it earlier this year against lesser opponents, technically, but it's going to be. It's tough to imagine when you've been doing this for 2 months in a row that you can just suddenly get yourself out of it.
Yeah, I think the worst thing for Lions fans would be Christmas Day that the Vikings beat them and basically the Lions season's over, right? Like
that's the loss you're looking at. If you want to be
the
worst
Grinch,
Christmas present of all.
I hate to be the Grinch. Yes, it's going to be 7:30 Christmas night, and you're going to be absolutely devastated because flipping J.J. McCarthy goes and throws 3 touchdown passes and beats you for a second time. So sorry to get so heated, but that could happen. And Brian Flores' defense against the Lions has always been really good, and so yes, I expect them to beat Pittsburgh, but then I'm just so unsure about that Minnesota game.
Yeah, J.J. McCarthy, huh? It's
Stop,
it's amazing.
Stop.
It's amazing when I'm not calling him like the next, I don't know, Patrick Mahomes, but maybe don't judge somebody when they've only played 10 games in injury in their NFL career. That's all I'm saying. But yeah.
Okay. How was Brad camp? Here we go.
All right. Well, before we move on again, all right. So again, they need to win these next 3 games. It all starts against the Pittsburgh Steelers this Sunday. Do they come away with a win? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Score predictions. Anything you think it's going to be kind of dominating, or do you think it might be close?
Similar score to the Cowboys Lions game. I think it's around like that. The Lions are going to score a lot in offense. Probably I see Pittsburgh 45-27.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
No. 31-17.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Sweet. All right. Well, Lions kind of in the dumps right now, but the team that's not is the Detroit Pistons. They are currently still atop the Eastern Conference in the NBA right now. Currently have a 2.5 game lead over the New York Knicks for that number 1 seat in the conference. Having watched them really all year long, it's just been so fun. We touched on it, not only in this show, but also in NBA as well, just how much fun it is to have a good team in Detroit again, a team to root for and a team to kind of, get behind, especially during the long, grueling basketball season. But you guys have also watched them. I mean, is there anything that we can kind of pinpoint, an issue about this team, or maybe, another team in the Eastern Conference even that maybe you're a little bit worried about as far as competing with Detroit right now?
At this point, no.
Yeah.
Like I had a chance to actually watch a full game. Obviously my life is very busy, but I had a chance to watch the Pistons play Boston the other night in Boston, and I was just very, very impressed with just the togetherness. Cade Cunningham is becoming a superstar. He had 32 points in that game. He's just kind of, crunch time, fourth quarter, when they need a basket, they go to Cade, and he delivers, right? And in the past couple of years, he hasn't always done that, but he's got a great supporting cast around him. And like I said, I just love that I feel like, playing with each other. And I mean, other than the Knicks, maybe there's not a team in the Eastern Conference that really, really scares me. Especially with the injuries to Tatum and Giannis, and just So Pistons are playing well, and every time I feel like they might have a little slip up, they just bounce back, and no pun intended, they rebound and they get a win and go from there.
Yeah, I think there's one thing that scares me at all. It'd just be, are they too hot to start the year? Like, can they keep it up the entire season that way?
Are they the Tigers? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not to that extent. Gosh, I hope that would have been one of the most historic collapses in all of sports. So hopefully not to that extent. But yeah, no, it's one of those things. It's like in basketball, when you kind of think about it from like a college perspective for a second, like Michigan right now, right? Everybody's talking about them being 10-0. People are wondering, the one problem with them is maybe they're too hot early in the season, that when it gets closer to March, they for some reason have some kind of problem, just because basketball's a weird game. It works like that over a long season sometimes. That'd be my only concern, because otherwise, like, besides like a prediction, you can't really, there's nothing wrong with this team right now. They're just playing so well together. Duncan Robinson has been a bigger piece for me than I think some people are talking about. He really has filled that gap of Malik Beasley being out and being able to hit the 3-pointer. Like, maybe he doesn't provide exactly the same defense. I mean, Beasley wasn't exactly a great defender either. So he's been an awesome fill-in too. But yeah, you just mentioned it, Dean, kind of with that Boston game. Watching that game on ESPN with a star making a bucket like that for the Pistons, how long have Pistons fans been waiting for that moment, like in this kind of NBA now? Because since they won the championship with like the Chauncey Billups teams and Rip Hamilton and all them, they haven't had it. It's been non-existent. Even those teams were just considered teams, right? They didn't really have a superstar. Cade is like the first one for them, and it's awesome to see that it's finally coming to fruition. It's been a lot of fun to watch.
Absolutely. And again, I think if people kind of grew up on the Pistons, as dominant as they were in the early 2000s, I mean, you kind of get those same vibes watching this team. It's all about defense, all about hustle plays, and you've got some quote unquote bad boys on this team as well.
Isaiah Stewart.
Beef stew, man.
Beef
Love
stew.
beef stew. Yeah,
love it.
All right. Well, I want to have some fun though with you guys though, because it's the holiday season. Everybody's making their wish lists and everything like that. If you were the Pistons, is there one thing that would be at the top of your list that you would really want to ask Santa for, or something that you think would take this team to that next level and be, maybe even favorites up there with the Thunder right now with how they're playing?
Mine would be not even a player. I would wish for like no injury, stay healthy. Yeah. I think this team is
self-revives.
I think this team is like so good the way that it is that I really don't want to mess with it right now. Like, until they start losing or proving there's like a problem that is a big issue. Like, even I don't want to see Jade. I kind of like this version of Jaden Ivey they're turning him into.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't want them to make a move right now that's going to disrupt the. I mean, Sabonis was going to be my guy that I kind of talked about a couple of podcasts ago, and that probably would still be my guy because of how much they'd have to pay for him and give up. They wouldn't have to give up a lot of it, and that would maybe be the one guy I'd want underneath to work with Duren. But it's just, Yeah, I don't know. And no injury. Stay away from injuries for me. That's my wish.
Right. And it's funny, like you say that, but they're so deep. I feel like unless it's an injury to like some major guys, but we've seen that, right?
But I think that's what helps them with the way they play defense, having all the guys available. You know what I mean?
Right. I'll tell you what, I don't want anybody either. Okay, sorry, I don't want to say to bring anybody, but I've seen some of these mock trades, like of us.
You mean you don't want Anthony Davis?
I was going to say Anthony Davis, like Kyrie Irving, like no, I don't want some lazy big guy, man. We already have Jalen Duren in there, so like, I think the Pistons have all of the pieces that are necessary to compete for an NBA championship. Obviously, OKC is way up here.
Yeah, for sure.
As far as the best team in the NBA. But the Pistons have all the pieces.
It feels like you're playing to get to the finals this year. Yeah. I mean, this feels like the goal. Like they feel like Golden State back when they were that dominant. Like they just don't lose.
Yeah. So. We don't need a coach. We don't need a bench. We don't need anything.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and the worst part is we don't even get to see the Thunder and Pistons play. I don't think until March even. So we still have a ways away before we even see the top two teams right now face off against each other. So who knows? It might look a little bit different with Detroit. They might be able to stop OKC. Who knows?
Yeah, but that's why it's like hell for me. Just imagine if Cade wasn't on this team. That's just everything changes so much.
Yeah, if he missed a month or
injury problems early on in his career, like that's what you can't lose him. That's just all there is to it.
Definitely. All right. Well, fingers crossed on that. While we still have some time, though, we've got a couple of other topics we want to get to. First being the Detroit Red Wings, who are still atop. They're first in the Atlantic Division right now. They kind of slipped up a little bit. They lost 4 in a row, but now I believe they've won 8 of their last 10, 5 of their last 6. Guys, just kind of generally speaking, I mean, who are the real Red Wings, I guess? Is it this team that's been playing so well recently, or is it maybe a team that is susceptible to slipping up every now and again?
Well, just like we just talked about, like, maybe you want like Michigan and Michigan State to get to March right now and just like have as hot as they've been. It's the same thing for the Red Wings. Like, just get me to March, because right now this is the same thing that it's been the past few years. They start really good and they have all the success early, and I'm not going to know anything until they get to March about if they're actually a good team that can contend for something and make the playoffs or not. But right now, I think the biggest difference of why they've been playing better is their goaltending's been playing better. John Gibson has had a couple shutouts in recent games. He's played much better in that. Like, yes, their defense has not been the best, I guess, and we kind of knew that it wasn't changing much coming in. Evanson's had a few injuries to deal with, and obviously the whole Quinn Hughes thing, I could have a whole nother podcast on what he said. He basically added Steve Eisman about not getting him, and maybe that's a topic for another time. But they haven't added any help to it, so they kind of needed the goaltending that they have in this team to be better, or bring Kosa up and hope he was better. Right now, you're getting it from John Gibson, and you keep riding that as long as you can. But I think that's going to be the key. If they can have better goaltending with the mediocre defense they have outside of Murray Sider, who's phenomenal, that's going to be the key all the way down the stretches if Talbot and Gibson can keep this up.
Yeah, their ability to score goals, right? Because they need to score goals, like because you said because of their mediocre defense, So the offense obviously has picked up. Lots of different guys are contributing, and they have a slip up, but then they come back, and that always hasn't been the Wings' MO. And so if they can be consistent now, and I won't be happy until they do clinch a playoff spot. Yeah, come March, right? Like you said. So consistency is the key for me with the Wings.
Tom McClellan was a great hire for this team. Regardless, I'm very happy that he's the coach. He switches it up for him quick.
Right, absolutely. Well, great stuff. Again, it's great to have all these Detroit teams doing so well, Michigan teams in general, and that includes our favorite Division II football powerhouse, the Ferris State Bulldogs. They are playing in the Division II National Championship once again this coming weekend. They're going to be taking on Harding in that one. Andy, you've been up there the past couple of games during this playoff run.
Past few games.
He got frostbite last week.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did you really?
No, I didn't actually get frostbite, but the real feel was -20 on the field. I mean, I was looking up at
Would not be surprised if he did, given the conditions.
Lainey, one of our sports anchors, she was up top shooting the game while I was down in the field, and I kept looking at her, and I was like, I feel so bad. She's from California right now.
That wind must have been.
She's like, why am I here?
Yeah, right.
Like it's just so bad. It's it was absolutely brutal. Like I was prepared in every way possible, and I've covered it the last 3 weeks. Like I've had the hand warmers and the gloves. I wear the ski mask, like everything.
You were Jamison Williams.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, no, I was bringing that back, the Lions thing. Yeah, no, it was. But this was different. I mean, my legs were freezing. My camera was slowing down to the point where I couldn't even really tell how fast my highlights were shooting. So it was very hard to keep up with the ball.
Yeah.
But it was overall was cool. And when Tony Anise asked at the end of the game, the players sorry, we have to leave this weather. All the players are very honest in saying that they want to leave that weather. Right. So they're not even used to how cold that was last Saturday. So it was crazy, but it's cool to be a part of, and it's been cool. It's been a lot of fun to cover. Tony's a great coach, and I think my favorite thing that he kind of said at the end of that game in the press conference was people were asking him about, like why he's never taken another job or anything. He's like, why would I want to leave here? Like I've got it going great here. You know, in a world where everybody has to leave somewhere so fast and hope they get the next best thing, I've got something great going for me here. Why would I not keep doing something that nobody else is doing at any other level of sports? Absolutely. And I respect the heck out of that. So awesome that they're winning still. Love it.
Definitely. And of course, we're rooting for the Bulldogs in that game. Of course, do they get another national championship under their belt? I think we kind of are all in agreement here.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's going to be an upset.
Yeah. Oh, really?
No, there's absolutely no chance.
Yeah. No, the Hardy boys aren't going to beat.
It doesn't matter. They could fall down 21-0. I put everything on Ferris.
It's what they do though. They kind of let teams think they have a chance to win, and then they just kind of snowball.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's going to be an awesome game, an awesome weekend for sports again. This is our last show of the year, so I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in and sticking around with us this year. We'll be back again in January with another edition of the Sports Frenzy Podcast.